Hello and welcome to the first tutorial of chapter 2 where we're going to jump into graphics. So this is going to be a lot more fun. You know, we saw the basics. It was me and near the end it started getting pretty heavy. Well, this stuff's going to be heavy too, but at least we're doing graphics, and at the end of chapter 2, which is a short chapter, kind of, and at the end we're going to actually see something on the screen, so it's going to start being interesting. Right now we were just doing text and LOL and stuff. So alright, so let's get into the first thing and let's create a desktop window. So basically here in my browser, this is a desktop window, right? You got your windows, you got the little X, your little maximize button and stuff, and you got an area where your game is going to be drawn to. So like for a windowed mode game, basically. All right, so let's close completely what we started previously. So you can go in File, Close Solution. We're going to start a new project now because the program is going to be fairly different. All right, so you do a new project, and now you want to pick Win32 project. Right, empty project was kind of the console one. Well, it's Win32 console application actually. So now we want a Win32 project, which is like using Windows Form and stuff. So what we're going to do, I'm going to call it tutorial. Whoops, sorry for that. Okay, I'm just going to mute my phone. Tutorial DX11. All right. Click OK, and then you're going to have a pop-up. You're going to click next, and what you want an empty project. Let's uncheck the other things. You want a Windows empty project, and you don't want to check the bottom one there. And you're going to click finish. All right, so we start empty again. So we're going to create our main CPP files. Let's call it main. All right. And we're at the point where we were previously. Remember, we had a function called main. Well, this is not going to work this time, right? So it's not going to find the main entry point because the main function for Windows program is called differently. All right, so we're going to see that right away. It's called win main, and careful to, and it returns an int. So careful to the capital here. This is important, and it returns an integer. All right, and the first parameter is age instance, which is a Windows type. It's basically a struct of an app instance. So that's the instance of your application. We're not going to use this parameter, so it doesn't really matter. And then the second parameter is the previous instance, which you can ignore. And the next parameter is lpstr, which is the command line, which we have another way of getting it, so you can ignore this. And the next parameter is the command count, the number of argument in the command line, which is probably going to be 0. All right, so you can see this is red. It's not finding it, so you're going to have to include Windows. Right, it's called windows.h, like this. So you'll notice this is kind of a standard file, but this one actually has a H file. So Windows includes have a H file like that. It's not just like we used to be. And we don't have to do using namespace here, because Windows stuff are just like globally scoped, which is bad, but that's how it is. Now, so if I run that now, it's actually going to work. It's going to compile, it's going to run, and it's going to exit. And you didn't see the little DOS application flash there because we don't have a DOS application anymore. This is just plain Windows application, and we're not creating any window right now. So this means, you know, there's no window, and one application can create multiple windows, right? So, you know, for example, if I was doing it, well, now, you know, Visual Studio has 2 windows, so the number of windows is, you know, doesn't make the application. So anyway, so, and you want to return 0 at the end. So 0 means Windows will understand this as, well, there is no error, so return 0. All right, so that's it for basically creating the program. So now what we want to do is actually create a window. For this, we're going to create a class, all right? Because it's going to be ugly if we start putting all the code to create a window there. So we're going to create a window class. You're going to create a new header file, call window, and you're going to create a new, oops, I've pressed the wrong thing, a new CPP class, which is also called window. All right, so remember when we were defining a class, we were doing pragma once at the top of the header file for safety. And we want to call this class window. And I'm going to have a constructor that's going to take a width and a height. All right, so kind of makes sense. Huh? In the CPP file, we want to include our window and implement the constructor. All right, so let's jump back into our main and include that new file. So remember, we use quotes here and not the little brackets. And we want to create a window. And let's make it 800 by 600 for, it's a small resolution. You can make it bigger, but I just want it to fit in my video there. All right, so this will do nothing because we haven't implemented it. Let's just verify it compiles. There's a warning there. So they want you to put callback here. Okay, I'm going to explain this briefly later. Just put this here. It just means that this is basically Windows calling into your application, and it's a callback. That's how they call it. Just think about C# delegates basically. All right, so so now it should compile with all warnings and runs. It will open and close again. All right. So we're going to create our window here. All right. So how you do this? Well, there's a function called create windows. Oh, let's just set up some project properties. So you want to right click on the project, not the solution again, go into properties, and what you want to do is the character set, you want a multi-byte character set. So this is basically UTF-8. Because by default they don't use UTF-8, they use kind of wide characters. Anyway, I'm not going into this, just set it to this, and this is going to be because every function call we're going to do to Windows, there's basically two versions of it, and we want the UTF-8 version. So basically what you call is create window. All right, oops, we need to include, so it's not finding it, don't forget to include windows.h, do not confuse with our window class. All right, so you want to create a window, and the first parameter is going to be the class name. All right, so just ignore that. We're going to see that in a minute. Then the second parameter is going to be the name of the window. So that's basically what you see here for this Windows. It's tutorial DirectX11, blah, 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 blah. So whatever you want at the top of your Windows. So we're going to say, well, it's a C++, well, let's call it DX11 tutorials. Let's call it chapter 2. Chapter 2, blah, blah, blah. All right. And then the next tutorials, I'm just going to do a return here because there's a lot of parameters, is basically the styles of the windows. So what you want is a pop-up. All right, so that's a pop-up window. It's a Windows that appears. And then you want it to have a caption at the top. Like we want here, have a caption. So WS stands for Windows style. All right, so that's why you see those WS in front of everything. And then you want it to have a system menu. This is the little thing drop down there at the top. Every window has that in Windows. And then you want it to be visible by default. All right, so we're going to put those basic types there right away. The next two parameters are its position. So for the sake of the example, we're just going to put them at 100, 100, so we can kind of center it in our video. Next is the width and the height. Well, we already passed that in parameters, so let's reuse them. All right. And the next four parameters, you can just ignore them. So you're going to set them to null. Remember, null PTR, and then that's it. So this show creator windows, it's not going to work because we have not defined the first parameter. Right? It didn't do anything. It just opened and closed. So now, so just to create a window, let's put some comment here. we need to define this, which is the class of the windows, which is going to provide, it's a window style. All right, so something to understand in Windows is that everything is a window. Okay, a button is a window. Whatever you see text here, this is a window. Right, so everything is a window basically, not just the physical window. So if I put like button there, well, it will create like a button. You see a little pop-up there, well, that's what's actually a big button. Okay, well, we don't want this. We want to define our own style, which is going to be a very simple plain window with a rendering context, DirectX context in it that we're going to use to draw DirectX stuff. So let's create a window class, C, a window class. So this is a class. Okay, just like our hero type, this is a Windows basic type that was in the Windows. Right, we want to initialize it to 0. So that's how you initialize everything inside to 0. And then we're going to set first is some style. We want it to say on DC. So the only thing you need to know is this is the device context, and we're going to need this for DirectX rendering. And then we want to set his callback function. It's going to be red. We're going to define it after. So every time there's something happening in the windows, like the mouse over, or you move it, or you resize it, you want to catch those events, right? So they're going to call this function that we're going to define here at the top later on. Every time there's something happening, it's going to call this function, and then we can catch those events and see what's happening, basically. Then after that, we want to define the cursor, so h cursor, load cursor, we ignore the instance, and we want arrow. All right, so their syntax is IDC arrow. They're basically predefined stuff. And this is the basic, as you can see here, the basic arrow, mouse, cursor, right? There's other types. If you go check them, there's like the beam, there's a weight, there's a cross, there's like the, okay, so anyway, you're not going to use that because in video games, most of the time, we're going to basically hide this and draw our own DirectX cursor directly on the screen. And then we want to set the class name, which is going to be, let's call it DX11 tutorial. So it's basically, we're defining a Windows class here, and we have to give it a name. And this is the same name that was asked here. So just copy this there on the first parameter. So when we create the window, remember we were trying to set button because button is a Windows style that already exists. So once you have defined it, you need to tell Windows to register this class. So you can do register class and just pass a pointer on it. So remember, we go get the pointer of it this way. We go get the address of it. So Windows want a pointer. So far this will not compile because we have not defined a Windows procedure here. Wondering if it works if I do this. Yeah, so it's not going to work. You need to define this. So let's define this function now. All right, so the return type is result. This is basically just type def on a integer type, but this is what every function, Windows function basically return. It's result. Again, this is a callback. All right, think about delegate again here in your head. They're going to call back us everything that's happening. All right, we call it win procedure. And the first parameter is going to be the handle on our window. So every button, every window basically have a unique ID associated with it. Well, this is it. It's a handle. The next parameter is an unsigned integer. And it's going to be the message. So the message ID. So let's say ID 1 is resize, ID 2 is the windows got closed and the mouse moved on it and whatever, okay? And then the next two ones are W param and L param. So they're basically the parameters associated with the event. So in the case of a mouse move, and like this one would probably be X and this one would probably be Y. All right, so it's pretty ugly. Okay, this goes back to like probably Windows like 95 or whatever. This is very old and it's C code. It's not actually C++. So that's why you kind of have to do those things. I'm sure if Microsoft were to completely redesign the base kernel of Windows, those things will probably change and be more in the style of C#. But C#, you know, under the hood, they probably still do calls like this. All right, so by default, we just want to return def window proc and just pass the same parameter back. All right, so if we don't do anything with the message, we want to say Windows, do whatever default behavior you have for it. Right, so technically if I run this, now I have a window. And then it got closed. Yeah, it got closed because obviously after we created the windows, we exit the program. So you saw briefly there the windows and there was the tail holder at the top. Now it's going to be really fast. Yeah, so that's how you create a Windows. Okay, see we only have like about 10 line of codes. It's not that bad. And you know, now that we did that, we could have made the region wider if you want, stuff like this. So now we need a main loop because we don't want to quit the program so fast. So what you want is basically just while true. So now it's going to loop indefinitely. So it's going to show the windows and loop indefinitely. And you're going to see a chapter 2, DirectX11 tutorial, and blah, blah, blah. So unfortunately, this is not responsive. So I can drag the window and eventually Windows going to put in parentheses here, not responsive. Why? Because we're actually not, you know, we're just hard looping here. We're not going back to window every time and translating the message that comes in for us and all. So we need to do this. So let's define a message, initialize it to 0. So this is again a basic Windows type that is defined into this. And what you want to do every frame, so basically every loop, you know, think of it as a frame in your game. Okay, you want to let Windows handle message, you know, like resizing the window and move the cursor and stuff. So if peak message, so we're going to peak, see, hey, is there a message? Pass a pointer on your message there. You can ignore all the other parameters, set 0, 0, 0, and the last one you want to remove. So basically, if there was a message caught, remove it. You know, don't keep it in Windows. You know, I've handled the message myself. Just remove it. That's what it means. But basically, just copy this part. We're never going to retouch this part like ever again. Okay, so this is a one-shot deal. So we're going to translate that message. Again, pass a pointer to it. Then we're going to dispatch that message. Okay, and dispatch will probably send it to our function call here that we did. Yeah, so basically now if we run this, the Windows is now responsive. I can move it. I see the cursor on top of it. I see the tail. I can actually, you know, do stuff. And I can close it, but you'll notice something when I close it. We're still stuck in the loop. Like the program haven't stopped yet, so I have to stop it manually. That's because now that we're receiving message, we're not catching like the close event and stuff. So we're closing in Windows, but we're not closing the application. The application still runs in background. If you go in Task Manager and in your process, you will still see it there. So what we want to do is catch some of those close events. So basically just test if the message is Windows message destroy, or if the message is Windows message close. Right, so if the user destroyed the Windows using maybe Alt F4 or close here, or if it did a close using the close, the X button there. So what we want to do is post quit message. All right, so this is a Windows call. We don't have to define a function, and we want to say for quitting, and then we're just going to return 0 from that function. All right, so now it's still not going to work when I close it. All right, now it's not going to do anything. Alt F4 is not doing anything. Now we need to cache that message here. All right, so if let's go in the if here. So if the message was quit, right? Because we did a post quit message, this will generate a Windows message quit. Then we can break our loop. All right, this will break our while loop, and then it will exit. So now if I click the X, yeah, all right, so it just took a little time here, but because we're in debug, but basically it's finally shutting down the application and all. So this is it for this tutorial. We created a window and we're catching the important quit message, and that's it. Eventually, when we start doing games, we're going to catch other events there for like mouse movement and record where those mouse is. No, actually, you know what? We will do only controllers for the sake of simplicity in my tutorial, so we might not even do this. So this is your main loop here. All right. So what you will want to do eventually is call update and call draw on your game. Every frame, right? So it's going to pick message. If there was a message, it's going to translate, dispatch it, and it's going to check if it's a quit. And then every loop is just going to continue do your usual game stuff, update and draw. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. This is not a lot of code. I know it's a little bit confusing. You know why you have to call all those things, and you know this is a little bit weird. You know, Windows redefine all basic types, all right? But you know, bear with me. That's how they do. And DirectX also kind of redefine their types too. So you're going to have to deal with this. But yeah, that's how you create a window. And if you start looking for tutorials on how to create a game window, and they usually have a lot more code than this, maybe about like 5 times more than this, and it gets really confusing. So that's why I created this tutorial to show you there's actually simpler ways of doing this. You know, you don't have to set everything. I've set only 4 members here in this class, and this class actually has a lot more. If I actually can go find it, you know, there's a lot more properties, but most of them can be initialized to 0, and it's not a problem. And the same thing with the creating windows. Most of those arguments can just be ignored. So yeah, I wanted to create you a tutorial where, you know, it's not that hard to create a basic window. All right. So that's it for now. The next tutorial, we're going to see how to initialize DirectX11. You'll see this is also extremely easy. Yeah, and then the tutorial after we will start seeing stuff on the screen. So it will start getting pretty cool at tutorial 3. So hope you enjoyed, hope you understand so far. If you have questions, emails in the description. The source code for this is on GitHub and is still, this is the GitHub. It's all in chapter 2, tutorial 1. There's a project for each of them. There's a main solution there, so you can open it. Yeah, so the link will be in the description for this also. Thanks for watching.